Hey, my name's Jared Moon, and I'm part of a group of underground athletes you've probably never even heard of before. Most of us don't even have gym memberships. We don't have every piece of equipment known to man, nor do we have a ton of time to train. And we don't need it because we're achieving amazing things without it. We are garage gym athletes, and these are our stories. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jared Moon here, and welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. With me is Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Hey, hello.
How is life since the last recording of the new Garage Gym Athlete episode?
Good. I did a Murph, and it was painful and nauseating a little bit, but
Okay,
it was good.
Let's hear it. I want to hear about your Murph experience. Maybe I'll give some update on my Murph experience.
So just did body weight because my wife confiscated my vest and my other ones across the country. I think I drank too much coffee and water. I think I had too much going on in my stomach because when I would go from doing really fast squats to keeping my pull-ups, things were slushing around. And by round 15 of the calisthenics, I was like, nope, no more good. Granted, it was the first one I've done in even unvested in months, but still, yeah. Decent time. I mean, people will probably see the time and like it, but it was slowish for me.
See the time? Did you post on your Instagram?
No.
Oh, okay. If people were to see the time.
So the workout technically didn't happen because I didn't post it on Instagram.
Yeah, it's completely negated. Didn't even take place.
But my wife did, and she tagged it on me, so that's like a half credit.
It's
like the research partner that only shows up and still gets the grade.
Yeah, it counts. Cool, man. Well, so you basically weren't feeling good and you called it quits? What?
Oh, no, I continued. I just took, so like once I kept up my normal pacing, and then once I got to round 15, I had to take like almost an entire minute break in between some of the rounds. But I kept going, even though I was like dry heaving.
Yeah, I've done that before. Not on Murph, but I remember when I wasn't as conditioned for the 1.5 mile run on the Air Force PT test, but I really wanted to still max it out. I would literally be dry heaving while running like the last 600 meters of the 1.5 mile. Yeah. And never a pleasant experience to continue running at full speed while you're actually dry heaving.
Yeah. And then our run is terrible because we live at the bottom of a really steep hill. So like even after that, you got to run up this giant hill.
Well, then you come downhill though, right? So
I'm coming downhill at the end. But then, like as I'm coming downhill, I started to get a cramp, and downhill is jarring, and then you can't really stop yourself. And it was a good experience. Yeah. Well,
somehow at my house, I go uphill on the way away from my house, and I go uphill on the way back to my house. I don't know how it's physically possible, but no. So my PR this week, I did post it on Instagram, so it definitely counts. Was that I hit a PR, or I called it a baseline, because I did a squat and a drop of sweat fell off my head right at the top, and I was like kind of looking down while I was doing the squats, and I came back down so fast, the sweat drop got back on my forehead.
It's recycling.
Never done that before.
Just open your mouth next time.
Yeah, it was insane. But no, the Murph project has been going really well. What I just finished number 11. Within the first 10, I PR'd my no vest Murph, which was unexpected but awesome. And I came within 14 seconds of PRing my vested Murph. And, now I think I'm getting closer to it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen till later if I PR the whole thing, because the temperatures are rising, and I'm going to be at this point where it's just like, it's really just like get through the summer, and then you start PRing everything in the fall and going into the winter here in Texas. So that's what I'm looking forward to. In the summer, just training, no expectation. But I did also PR my 40-pound Murph. So my 40 pounds in the vest, PR'd that by 4 minutes, which I was pretty happy about. Always fun. Also, since our last discussion, I've tried the Gatorade thing.
Oh, yeah.
I tried it in just a normal GGA workout. I did not notice any difference. I'm not going to lie. But it wasn't a workout. It was more of a strength-based workout that I was doing because of the study that we just covered last week. So I did it in more of a strength training session. And I don't feel that I struggle in any normal strength training session anyway, necessarily. And so I didn't notice anything. I do want to try it during Murph though. I want to start adding some carbohydrate rinsing I just got to figure out how to do that without wasting time. I don't drink any water when I'm doing Murph. Like taking a break to have some Gatorade, swish it around, spit it out. Seems like a waste of time, but I'm going to try it.
I'd say also, or because I think you're doing endure, so some of the intervals, so like halfway through, like see what the pacing is on the intervals, and then halfway through, swish some stuff around, see if the intervals are easier or what.
Yeah, I haven't, where it's most proven, which is endurance stuff, I haven't tried it there yet, and I want to do that. But another thing I realized or came to remember is Gatorade tastes really good. I haven't had it in a really long time, and I was like, this tastes really good, and I just forgot about how good it tastes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it just don't slip up when you're really tired and start chugging.
Yeah, start chugging.
Fall off the deep end.
No, I won't. It's like not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. All right, well, let's get into it this week. We're gonna talk about. I posted this in the 5-Line Friday. If you guys follow along, we have a newsletter every Friday. I send out some information, and sometimes I throw a study in there, sometimes I don't. And we're not always going to match the podcast up to the studies, but it's just kind of been working out that way right now. And the study that was reviewed or I discussed was endurance training intensity does not mediate interference to maximal lower body strength gain during short-term concurrent training. Like, I hate the names of these studies. Basically, let's put it in different terms. We are going to discuss this week, should you only train strength if you want to get stronger? What are the pros and cons of that? What happens when you do train strength, but also have some sort of moderate or high intensity conditioning program to go in conjunction with that? And, what the overall effect of it is. So I'm going to start with what the interference effect is. So the interference effect describes the relatively smaller gains in strength and hypertrophy. So hypertrophy is muscle growth seen when combining strength and endurance training versus performance strength training in isolation. So the interference effect is just a really cool term that says, hey, if you train strength with something else like endurance or conditioning, you're not going to get as strong, or it's going to interfere with your strength gains. It's pretty well documented. But I think every time I've seen one of these studies, I get a little bit frustrated because I think the person who wrote the study or did the study, while they shouldn't be, or the person who interprets the study, typically, let me go off. The person who interprets the study, not necessarily the person who conducted the study, has some sort of strength training bias. And so they're like, this proves my point that you should not, do them concurrently because, spoiler alert, the results of the overall result of the study is that it is better to train strength by itself to gain more strength than to train strength with some sort of conditioning program attached to it. So that is the short of it. But there's a lot more to it, and that's kind of what I want to unpack. But first, I want to just get your initial thoughts on training them concurrently versus exclusively, and what you think about it, Joe.
I mean, since I've been doing this kind of programming for a number of years now, I know you can get stronger with doing everything. And I think even back when I did the bodybuilding bro sessions, I was still that kind of weird guy that was on base doing parachute sprints on the field after my workouts. So I think I personally always wanted to be well-rounded because I was always an athlete playing lacrosse and soccer and football and stuff. As far as, when seeing those bros in the gym that just going for strength and stuff, I guess if that's all you want, then they can probably get that faster. But I don't know. I guess it just depends on how people go about their conditioning aspect. If I think some people think that if they just lift, or if they were to do conditioning, that they're just thinking of, running for 30 or 60 minutes is conditioning. There's no middle ground, but that's not true.
Yeah, and that's everyone always looks at these outer extremes, right? Like you either are the power lifter who can deadlift 1,000 pounds, or you're the ultra endurance athlete who can run 100 miles, in a day, super fast or whatever. And that's not normally the case. That's not what a lot of us are trying to do. And so a few things. So just real quick results of the study. the people who train strength only, like I said, they got stronger, but the people who train strength with some sort of conditioning program, they tested moderate intensity and high intensity, and they got stronger as well, just a few percentage points behind the purely strength athletes. When all said and done, if I'm only a few percentage points behind you, I'm going to be okay with that if I'm a lot healthier, because I don't know why they didn't test it, but from what I see in the study, maybe they just thought it was going to be too obvious. But the VO2 max increase for the people who had a conditioning program increased a good amount, a couple percentage points. But then they didn't even test the strength people. There was no baseline for what happened to their VO2 max, I guess because they didn't care, or maybe I don't think I missed it. Like they just didn't care about the VO2 max increase. And so what you're doing is they're saying, okay, train strength, but don't worry about conditioning if you want to get stronger. But what does that come with, and what does that do to your health? Because if you're not doing any sort of cardio, there's going to be a lot of other effects from that. Like, how about not being conditioned, not being able to recover, dying sooner? Like that one, that's kind of a big deal. If you don't have some sort of aerobic base in your fitness program, it's pretty important. And I don't know if you caught this in the strength thing, but in the study, they only trained strength after doing these really grueling endurance workouts. And they weren't easy endurance workouts. They were harder endurance workouts. And so from our programming, we basically never do that. So why would you hit these like really hard intervals and then go train strength? That just, I don't know who programmed that in the study, and it doesn't make any sense to me. But have you ever done that? Have you ever gone like conditioning first, then strength after?
There's probably times I have. I can't think of anything specifically. There's probably times, yeah.
Yeah, and
but yeah, not best.
and this is for any athlete out there, and I'll get around to some takeaways and stuff. But any athlete out there, garage gym athlete or other, who wants to talk about programming and where you should fit in strength and where you should fit in conditioning, it's pretty simple. What you have to take into effect in your training order is the central nervous system and the coordination needed in further exercises. So what do I mean? If you fry your central nervous system with some sort of high intensity glycolytic conditioning session, and then you move to say overhead squats or something like that, you're not going to have the motor control to be able to perform that properly. So that's how you should be thinking about your programming. If you want to do something like an overhead squat, you should do an overhead squat after some activation activity, and then move into that glycolytic high intensity conditioning after the fact to keep you injury free and safe. And so this is just a really poorly executed, in my opinion, but still the data is the data. And they say train strength first if you want to get stronger. Now, the only other thing I want to point out, have you read Unplugged?
I have not.
Okay. Really great book. I'm going to so it's called Unplugged, Evolve from Technology to Upgrade Your Fitness, Performance, and Consciousness by Brian McKenzie, Dr. Andy Galpin, and Phil White. So we had Brian McKenzie and
I know those names.
Dr. Andy Galpin on the Better Humanology podcast. And this isn't necessarily their information, but they mention it. The 4 best predictors of mortality are unchanged from 50 years ago. This is from the book. They say they're still VO2 max, leg strength, lean body mass, and grip strength. And so that's what I think as an athlete you need to look at when you're trying to be like, oh, I want to get stronger, so I only want to train strength because that's what this study says. But okay, you're going to have, let's say you're just trying to live a long, healthy life. You got that leg strength, maybe some grip strength, but your lean body mass and VO2 max won't be as good as if you had a conditioning program. And I don't think I need to argue or sit here and argue a lot about people having some sort of conditioning aspect, but we get a lot of questions in our strength track sometimes, even people who have quit the program, because they're like, why is there like conditioning here? You said this is a strength track. Why are you doing some conditioning? It's because we want to keep you well-rounded without moving into that like actual endurance zone where, it's kind of unnecessary to be training with strength. Like you don't want to be doing opposite ends of the spectrum all the time. But my main takeaway for the athlete is have some sort of training. If you're going to be doing purely strength training, that is going to complement that. What we do in the strength track is very low end, high burst conditioning. So creatine phosphate, some glycolytic, just to make sure that our athletes are seeing the conditioning they need to get better at the strength training. And that's the biggest thing. CrossFit exploded. And then after CrossFit started to die down, what got really big? Olympic weightlifting. And that's because CrossFit is really hard and it sucks. And Olympic weightlifting is not that. And it's just human nature. Like, we're not going to want to do stuff that sucks all the time. And conditioning sucks. In my opinion, conditioning sucks way more than any strength workout I've ever done, ever. And I don't, I'll go to my grave probably believing that. I'm sure there's some strength athletes who's like, oh, well, come work out with me. And I'm like, you come work out with me. We'll do some conditioning. And, it's just, you got to have both in your program. Don't get lazy. Don't become, the CrossFitter who turned into the Olympic weightlifter who has no conditioning now and can't walk up a flight of stairs or play with their kids. And don't become the strength athletes who quits all forms of conditioning and wants to be a powerlifter now and have, no conditioning and can't do anything. That's not, in my opinion, what an athlete is and not what you should be training for. So have some form of conditioning. Like I said, that's my main takeaway. It doesn't have to be long endurance based, but do it anyway and you'll be better for it.
I think there's also, peeling back even those layers, that's also how we build power sometimes. And which is a lot of things that, it's highlighted in a lot of your articles that's missing in people's strength programs is building power. And, that's what people are missing sometimes.
Yeah, I have a video, a side-by-side comparison video of me lifting around 500 pounds. I think one was 500 and one was 515 actually. Like, they were actually different. And the 500-pound deadlift is like kind of the iconic deadlift you see with a more intermediate to novice trainee who's like super slow, like red-faced, like just this.
You're afraid for them to pass out.
Yeah, thank God he got that without dying. That was the 500-pound deadlift because, to be honest, I probably wasn't 100% ready to pull it, but through sheer brute force and willpower, I managed to do it. And then fast forward to like a year or two later, I started to train, like what you're saying, a little bit more power, working on the speed of the bar, things like that. And I just like ripped 515 pounds off the ground like twice as fast, and I was stronger, but not like significantly stronger. I was more powerful. And there's a big difference, and you're going to be a lot safer and see a lot more results and feel better as an athlete if you are more powerful, which involves a lot of the conditioning that we're talking about. And then also just like more speed lifting, dynamic effort lifting.
Yeah, I think we need to make that video resurface again. I think months ago I tried to find it because I don't know where it came up, but yeah, I'll have to get that out.
I think the actual, if memory serves me correct, the name of the article is something along the lines of taking your strength from Toyota to Lamborghini. So I got creative with that article title. But if you want to Google that, and we can link to it or whatever, but has the side-by-side comparison in it. Pretty cool little video. Considering I have like very limited video skills and I somehow did that.
And just other hit points on training, not just strength or whatever, is that if you train a little bit more at a little more intensity, you're probably going to be training less time. So you're not going to be spending 2 hours in the gym because you have the rest between your sets. And then there's always the guys that are in their cutting phase or bulking phase. But like if you keep your body weight at a relatively fair percentage, then that is also going to, help you in the long run as well. And, if normally the guys that are going for the bodybuilding, just lifting strength anyway, are doing it for aesthetic purposes as is. So why not be more efficient that way?
Well, and some guys are just they don't care what they weigh or necessarily look like body fat percentage. They just want to be strong, and they tried the conditioning model for a little while, but it was uncomfortable. And so now they just want to lift weights in their garage or basement or whatever. And I guess I'm going so far as to say that's not okay. Like, how some people are like, no, you do your thing and you be happy and that's cool. I just don't believe that because the literature is saying you're going to die sooner. And so I'm saying that that's not okay because I don't want you to die sooner. So I think it's okay for me to say it. Like, just have a little bit of, you can just walk your dog in the evening. That's honestly enough for a lot of people. But have some conditioning element to your program no matter what.
Yeah. And I keep saying bros, but I feel like females are much more goal driven whenever they get into a program. I don't know if you've noticed or that at all as well.
Some of the most dedicated athletes that I've worked with personally at Garage Gym Athlete have been females and people who've crushed their goals. So I've definitely seen that, but I've also seen a lot of males in the same boat. So yeah. All right. I think that's it, man. I think, just a big one, looking at these studies, the main reason we want to do it is give you some sort of takeaway. The takeaway today is always have some sort of conditioning, like the type of conditioning I mentioned. You could research that stuff a little bit more. We could do future podcasts on it, talking about creatine, phosphate, glycolytic conditioning, energy system training, a lot of stuff that we do at Garage Gym Athlete. But sometimes you have to look at these studies and then contrast them with another study. And that's what I did last time. That's what I did this time. I won't do it every time, but it's like, okay, yeah, getting stronger, you just do a strength program. It's like, well, you can still get stronger doing both, but then let's zoom out and look at these mortality rates. Okay, can we improve VO2 max, leg strength, lean body mass, and grip strength? And that is the biggest predictor of, if you were to just sit down and write a program, if you focus it around those areas, you're going to have one really well-rounded human being who's going to, barring some unforeseen circumstance, live longer statistically than other people. So it's just good training.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to flip it around too, because you addressed this before, that strength training in endurance programming as well. So flipping the whole thing around is just as beneficial. So whereas you shouldn't just do strength, well, you also shouldn't just do endurance. Yeah,
dude. I wish I could. You could go check out our sample programming and take a look. But the Endure track right now, I just trained today and did nothing but strength work today. There was no conditioning element today. And, it's my take on this whole thing and improving someone's endurance is very different than I think a lot of other people out there. And it's often missed in most endurance community. They might involve some lunges. I looked at, I did a lot of research and checked out a lot of other people's programs in preparation, really a year leading up. We've been talking about Endure forever. And I wasn't to be honest, I didn't feel as proficient in programming that. So I just did all this research and reading to make sure I was good to go. And people would have this really solid intervals at these given heart rates and these given intensities. And I'd be okay, that's great. But and then they'd be okay. And then after that, just do a couple sets of push-ups and a couple sets of squats to end of the day. And I'm that's the strength element? That's what you're doing? I just disagree. I think you could do it better. And so have a lot of strength training if you're doing endurance only. All right. Now this week, kind of topic of the week, kind of goes into some endurance aspects, but just Metcons, endurance, really everything in general. We're going to discuss just pacing. So pacing in general, when it comes to fitness and why that's important. And I had a video, and it was a very short video because I'm trying to beat all of our athletes over the head with a very simple concept, and I have for the last several years, and that is sustainability and repeatability. So I have a video on YouTube called Chop Chop Fitness Pacing, and it has me outside in my old backyard where I take an axe and do a really shitty job at trying to cut this log. I'm just banging it all over the place and doing all this stuff. And then finally I split the log, a minute into the video or whatever. And the whole reason for this illustration, the reason I did that is because that's how a lot of people do their conditioning work, no matter how it's prescribed or written. I can write you the perfect interval. I can write you a Metcon, a more CrossFit style workout or whatever. And what you're going to end up doing is exactly what I just explained and illustrated in that video, is you're just going to beat your head into a wall over and over again and not find any real pacing, therefore not seeing any real results. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. But I wanted to, start with you and see, cause I don't know. I feel like you've been very strategic about your workouts, ever since I've known you, but I think you've also gotten even a lot better at pacing, in some of your endurance stuff. So I just want to hear kind of your take on pacing.
I'm the king of pacing.
Right.
that I've found a lot of the longer workouts. I don't know how I can just dissect and be able to set a goal for something. Cause at first you think about what you can do and your reps in. So it's okay, I think I can do those reps in 35 seconds. So I'm going to calculate it's going to take me 45 seconds because I'm not always going to be able to do that in 35 seconds. And then you just do that with everything. And then usually I take that, I kind of round up and have that as my, whether it's intervals or rounds or whatever goal, and have that as the goal. And then I keep it at that goal. And then once you get to a certain point, at least for me, if you maintain at 80 or so percent intensity, then after you get to about halfway, you can usually find another gear once you see, okay, I'm over the hump, I'm getting toward the finish line. Now I can maybe turn it up a little bit here and there. Versus if you start off hot out the gate at 90, then when you get halfway through, you're going to be doubled over and have to dial it back down to like 65, and you're just going to be fighting for yourself to work out or to finish the workout. And then you might have some peaks and valleys, and I don't really know if that's doing as much for you versus sustainability. So a lot of times I will start off a lot slower, but if I were to be going side by side with people because I know to start slower because of sustaining at, say 80% or so, I can keep going, and then I'll pass the people that go hot out the gate. Just as an example.
Yeah, and that's exactly. So you learned that just on your own in being an athlete, because you realized what was more applicable and what seemed to work better, and that's awesome. And I think if you do train and use your brain a little bit in your training, you'll come to that conclusion. But if you just look at, moving away from just your experience as an athlete, like it's perfect. That's how it should be done, because what you're doing, or what other people are doing when they don't pace it out, is threshold training, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not something that you want to be doing every day. Every time I prescribe intervals, or every time I want you to do some sort of Metcon, I'm not telling you to go as hard as you can. And I'm having to erase that mentality from people, especially if they come from like a straight CrossFit prescription, where it's just, okay, you're going to go as hard as you can until this workout is over. And that's not what, like, almost every time we even do a Metcon, which is that more CrossFit style looking workout, multiple different movements, in there, we always, or most of the time, prescribe rest in there. So it'll be like, do these 3 movements, rest 3 minutes, do that 10 rounds. And then I want to see the sustainability and repeatability across those 10 rounds. That's your fitness. Like how consistent you are across those 10 rounds. That's your fitness. And it throws a lot of people off, but the opposite of that. And so, say you were doing some sort of Metcon and you rush out the gate and whatever the movements are, say you finish it in 35 seconds, and then the next time is 45 seconds, then it's 55 seconds, and then 65, then your last, 6 rounds are all a minute 10. You finally found some consistency, but it's like twice as long as if you would have just, had some pacing. And normally, if you just actually mathematically work that out, you're going to end up doing more work if you were to have paced it out faster. And it's going to be better for you, because the opposite, like I said, is threshold training, where you're just training. What you're doing with threshold training is you're training for this like upper level gear in pain that doesn't actually build like your aerobic capacity or anything like that. It's really just teaching your body how to suffer. There's not a lot of benefit to it other than the movement and sweat and calorie burn involved. But if we're talking about moving an athlete forward in their fitness, it doesn't do a lot for you unless you're starting from, let's say, suboptimal standpoint. So you're like, if you're really obese and like just getting into fitness, do whatever the hell you want until we get you to a baseline. But then after that baseline, the quote unquote honeymoon phase of fitness is over, you really have to start doing these sustainable and repeatable exercises to see results and to continue to see results. I think anybody can write an effective program for 4, 6, 8, even 12 weeks, but can you effectively program for another individual for 12 years? And that becomes a lot more challenging. And that's more what I'm looking to do versus what, you're doing when you do these non-pacing style workouts.
Yeah, because we're not really working toward quick fix goals. It's more of, hey, after these 12 weeks, you're going to see gains all across the board of this, that, and the other. But then we're just going to keep on doing that. So the people that do want that quick stuff, we're not going to keep that longer over time. And then with the pacing, for muscle endurance, you're probably going to be doing more reps as well. So.
Yeah, and what's interesting is you mentioned like muscular endurance, and I've had a lot of conversations with people about this who are in the coaching program, and the ability to turn muscular endurance. So muscular endurance is typically everyone's weakness. Like if I were to have you do, if you're kind of new at it and you do rowing, maybe your biceps burn out before your lungs because your biceps aren't very trained. That happens to like some new trainees. They're pulling too much with their arms, and then same with almost, say we have kettlebell swings and double unders in a workout. Well, the kettlebell swings, you're going to get these burning sensation in your muscles that's going to stop you before you ever get to your aerobic threshold. But after you train long enough and your muscular endurance catches up, it can withstand a lot more, and it can turn a lot of activity into aerobic activity. And the reason I'm saying any of this is because people wonder how I've gotten so fast at Murph is because Murph is no longer the volume doesn't even calculate anymore. Like my body is not affected by the 100 pull-ups, the 200 push-ups, and the 300 squats. Doesn't matter if you put 40 pounds in the vest. Doesn't matter if I do it strict. Doesn't matter if I do it kipping. Doesn't matter. The muscular endurance I've built up is so far ahead of that now that Murph is purely an aerobic workout for me. It actually feels like, whatever, my fastest Murph takes me around 30 minutes. It honestly feels like I'm running for 30 minutes for max meters. That's how uncomfortable it feels. It's like, okay, run as fast as you can in the next 30 minutes, get as far as you can. Like your life depends on it. That's what Murph feels like to me every weekend now. There's no like, I'm sore from the pull-ups or whatever. And cause that's like the next phase. Once you can kind of click over to, getting your muscular endurance surpasses or catches up to your aerobic, capacity, you can start doing some really fun stuff, and things aren't as difficult as they were before.
Yeah, that actually might be, circling back to the very first thing we talked about was my Murph. And when I was first, for the longest time doing Murph, I would always do my push-ups in fives. And like one of my biggest limiting factors was the push-ups, and that would slow me down. So I knew I had to pace it and do 5 reps from the very beginning, and I was able to keep that pace for a while. And I'd still get great times, but now I'm doing them, and I guess doing enough of the push-ups and stuff, I can do them all in sets of 10. I can just do 10 straight through. But now I'm going through them a whole lot faster. So it's definitely at way more intense, which is possibly why the squats got to get a little more intense, because that's usually the hardest part, because I can just blow through the push-ups now.
Yeah. And and to be honest, so when I restarted the project, like I had a lot of catching up to do. Like my push-ups had like kind of fallen off. They weren't where they were before. And so I kept hitting that as my limiting factor. Now everything's kind of caught back up. But to your point on squats, like that's where everyone gets slowed down. Like I watch everyone on Murph. Like I see these videos, like people in my opinion are basically resting on squats. They might be moving the whole time, but they're still resting, because you're not doing them as fast as you can. You're like 3 seconds per squat is a lot of time. So that's just a side note on Murph. All right, man. So we hit up a pretty good study. Good topic. So so takeaway for the study: always have some form of conditioning in your strength workout, no matter what. And we kind of gave you some ideas on where you could go with that if you ever want to program for yourself. Takeaway for kind of our topic of the week is make everything sustainable and repeatable. If I didn't make that clear enough, make everything sustainable and repeatable. I don't care if you're doing a CrossFit Metcon and it's a 10-minute AMRAP or whatever exercises you're doing, try to keep it in a similar time frame. Like, that took me 3 minutes and 1 second. So I want the next round to be 3 minutes and 1 second, plus or minus 3 seconds, something like that. See how sustainable and repeatable you can get across everything. And that is going to be such a better way to, like, even if you're doing someone else's programming, you try and make it sustainable and repeatable. In our programming, we build that in there for you and we brief on it and all this other stuff. But if you're following something else, try and make it more sustainable and repeatable, and then let them know that they're programming it wrong and that they should take these things into account. But make it more sustainable and repeatable. You're going to see more results for a longer duration than just running your head into this wall with this threshold training all the damn time. So those are my 2 takeaways there. Now we can get into the more, close it out with the fun workout. Sally's Revenge. Mm-hmm. Have you done this one? You haven't done it, have you?
Yeah, we did it once.
Okay.
Liz and I did it once months ago. I'm not sure.
Well, that's when it came out months ago. Because this one is relatively new, like within the last few months. And so it is run 1 mile. Bring Sally up pull-ups, and then Sally up push-ups, then Sally up squats. And you rest 3 minutes in between each of the exercises, or the 2. And then after the squats, you immediately go to a mile run. So kind of like I actually say in the athlete brief, it's like Sally and Murph had a baby. And it's kind of true. So I'll let you explain
Tempo Murph.
what Sally is, just in case someone hasn't been indoctrinated.
So Sally Up is a song. I don't even know who the song is by, but it's Moby. Okay.
Yeah.
There it is. So you do the all these movements to bring Sally up to the song. Now you're not alternating or anything like that. You're doing the entire song to pull-ups and then the entire song to push-ups and then squats. So you're listening to the song 3 times, and by the end, you're going to hate the song.
Yeah, and it's all really crappy. Like it's so hard. That workout was so much more brutal than I thought it was going to be when I executed on it. Like the pull-ups were near impossible. The push-ups were, because after your arms are blown out, like basically blown out from the pull-ups, I thought the push-ups were going to be the easy part, but because your arms are so fried from the pull-ups, believe it or not, like a bicep pump is going to affect your push-ups. And so then I couldn't, the push-ups were really crappy. And then actual barbell weighted squats, it depends on what level you're at, like what weight you put on the bar, or you just use body weight, but they're all going to suck. And I don't remember what I used. I don't know if I did 135 or 95, but it was just crappy. It was so crappy.
The YouTube video says air squats, but yeah, it's definitely stepped up version would be with weight.
It says air squats?
Yeah.
Why did I do barbell?
Well, because typically you just do one Sally Up and you just do one movement with a barbell and then you're done, because it sucks. And I've done it with a barbell before, but it's just the squats. Yeah.
So yeah, that's where the workout kind of came from. I don't remember where it originated exactly, but yeah. So bring Sally up every time.
Probably Rich.
Up. Yeah, I think so. And every time you say up, you go up. Every time you go down, down. So it's like a big tempo workout, but doing it all together. Search Sally's Revenge. You can go to garagegymathlete.com/MYS and you will see all of our Meet Yourself Saturday workouts there. You'll see Sally's Revenge. You can check it out, watch the athlete briefs and a lot of other videos, other really hard Meet Yourself Saturday workouts. So before we go, man, tips, tricks, strategies on this workout.
Yeah, I was thinking, this is one of the few workouts where you don't really have any.
There's there's nothing you can do. There's nowhere you can run.
The reps and tempo are made for you. The song is there. I guess be smart with your scaling. If you feel like you're going to fail something, try and, I don't know, or maybe just scale as you go. So like with pull-ups for me, I was able to do them for a while, but then my bar is just tall enough that as I go all the way down, I can kind of get on my tiptoes.
Yeah.
And take some weight off. So I did that a little bit just to make the pull-ups, push-ups. I guess if you just really start to fail, go to your knees. It's really just scaling. Not really many.
And it's not really so that's really solid advice for a good attempted advice for a workout that's very hard to give advice on. And because what's going to actually happen is you're not even going to have an option. It's not going to be like, you know what, I think I should scale it. What's going to happen is you're not going to be able to do another push-up. And so you're just going to have to end up on your knees or doing whatever. Like it's a pretty brutal workout. I guess the only advice I could give is, and I don't normally say this, especially not like Murph workout, but pace the mile. Because those are gonna factor it in there.
It's the only thing you really control.
That's the only thing you can control. And so, but pace that first mile to where you're gonna have a little bit left in the tank. But I never think you should pace the last mile. There's never any reason to try and pace it. Like you're gonna keep the pace at which your body will allow from the workout, and so push the maximal pace that you can there. It's the same in Murph. But that's it. That's it for this week's study topic and workout of the week. Got some more cool new workouts coming up in the next coming weeks. Now, if you are one of our athletes, one, you're awesome, and hopefully you're getting a lot out of these tips, tricks, and programming information and getting a little more behind the scenes. Now, if you're not one of our athletes, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can sign up for a free trial. We have a 14-day free trial that you can get started at and check out our programming, even if it's just something that you want to look into. And we have 6 different tracks now. I don't even know if I can name them all. We have 6 different tracks, all geared towards different goals. Which track are you on right now?
Hard to kill. Never switch.
You've never been off it? Yeah. The only
time I switched was to do the test programming for Hard to Kill's next cycle.
Yeah, which was for Hard to Kill.
So it was like,
yeah.
it was basically pre-Hard to Kill.
Yeah, and this is the first I've ever switched. So I have been on Garage Gym Athlete Hard to Kill track since, I think the beta test started in 2015. Beta access started in 2015. And it wasn't called Hard to Kill track back then. It was just Garage Gym Athlete programming when we had one track.
We named our cycles.
Yeah.
It was one.
Yeah, we used to just name the cycle and we'd have one cycle. Now it's getting a little more difficult because we have 6 cycles with technically, I guess, 6 cycles, all the different programming and everything. But it's getting crazy. If you want to check us out, you go to garagegymathlete.com, see what we have going on in the programming world. And I think that's it, man. Anything else?
If you don't know how to do your pacing, we'll do the pacing for you.
Yeah. Hey, I'm not going to lie. I truly believe that we have the best programming on the internet. And if that were to ever change, I would shut down the whole website because I wouldn't think it is worth doing or putting all the work into anymore. And if anyone thinks that their programming is better, shoot it my way. Let me see it. I'm not saying there are no flaws. There's always room for improvement. But that's like my mission in life is to make our programming better and continually sharpen that spear. All right.
Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.